For our next presenters, so where have they got? Here we go. So our next presenters, we've got Carol Leboff, and who's the EMEA Sales Industry Business Development Manager for Utilities and Telco, Salesforce, and Jonathan Dingwall, who's the Project Manager for Salesforce. So they're going to be talking about becoming a digital customer-centric utility. So we'd ask the speakers to come to the stand, please. Thank you.
Hello? Can anyone hear me? Yeah? Is it good? Good. Good morning and welcome to this session. My name is Carol Leboff. I run business development in EMEA for Utilities. And today I'm here together with my colleague, Jonathan Dingwall, subject matter expert on the utilities industry. So first of all, our safe harbor statement. Salesforce is a publicly traded company. Please make any buying decision based on products currently available. Sorry, this is our policy. And we love to start our presentation by thanking you for being here, thanking our past customers, thanking our customers and partners. We owe our success to our customers, and it's important for us. It's key for us that our customers are successful. The first time I joined European Utilities Week was 3 years ago, in 2016, and I took a picture of a quote from Roberta Bigliani, Vice President from IDC Energy. This quote is still very valid and true. Utilities need to rethink the way they run their business, the way they operate their business. They need to define new business model. They need to be more efficient. And this is the key to become and to be successful in the utilities industry. Consumer energies are not any different from any other industry. Consumer energy expect the same level of engagement and attention through different channels as any other industry. I am always using my app bank account. I always use my online bank accounts. This is the way I like to engage with my bank. And energy consumers are the same. 91% of customers expect to have the same level of engagement and treatment through any channel, regardless of their industry they are in. Reality is different for utilities. Reality is really different. Their solutions have been built to sell commodities, to serve commodity customers. They have not been built to engage with customers. So we need energy consumers are challenged every day. Who hasn't experienced a bad day at the call center? You call and you need to repeat over and over the same issue. How about setting up an appointment or changing an appointment? Is any of you able to do it online or via text message? I bet you don't. Now with all these electric vehicles coming on, are you able to plan a trip going to Rome to Milan? where I'm going to refuel my electric vehicle. I mean, can anyone plan for me the trip? And online capability. Online capability. I only use my online. I want to change my contract. Can I do that? No. Very rarely. I can look at the bill, but very rarely I can change my contract and do any other. So at Salesforce, we are very engaged with the utilities company. We work with our utilities company to make them successful, to help them to become the next generation utility company. And Salesforce is really focusing on 3 pillars to help our utilities company. The first pillar is with energy retailers. Energy retailers. The second pillar is DSOs. DSOs need to digitize themselves. And finally, water company. Water company are in the same bucket. Now, how we do this? How utilities are doing this? For Salesforce, it's important really to look at the 4 pillars. The first pillar, it's all about engaging. Engaging with your customers, right? Engaging when they are a prospect. Convert them into a customer. Being able to sell, serve, understand what they want, which channel they want to use. But don't forget, utilities need to reduce they need to run their operations efficiently. They need to reduce their cost to serve. It's the priority of any utilities company. And develop new business model. Revenues are shrinking deadly. I mean, they need to invest in new businesses. Whether it's electric vehicles, where it's connected to home, whether it's connected to enterprise, you name it. And finally, I mean, empower your employees. Happy employees serve happy customers. It's a one-to-one relationship. How we do this, okay? We got, on these 4 pillars, we got different solutions, different use cases that our customers are using. And today we're gonna see how some of them are using it, okay? So the 4 pillars are here, and I'm not gonna go through each of them. I'm happy to discuss it with you later in more details. But for today, I have a question, first of all. How many utilities are here? Proper utilities? Retailer? DSOs? Have a look at this video. The video is there.
Ted owns a company that makes solar panels. Jill here is his customer, and she uses his solar panels to power her entire farm. Solar panels that generate a lot of data. And thanks to Salesforce IoT, Ted can put that data to good use, orchestrating a system that monitors and responds to the state of the panels, so he can sell and service proactively, anticipating his customers' needs, by connecting his products to his CRM and his CRM to his customers, for an exceptional experience. When a panel stops generating power, it's immediately detected, and Salesforce IoT creates a service case, resetting the panel automatically without involving service agents, resolving the problem before the customer notices anything's wrong, which keeps her happy, and the solar company happy. When an issue arises that requires a technician, Salesforce IoT responds, creating a work order with location and product info. Before the customer discovers the problem, she receives an alert informing her about a damaged panel, so she can schedule a timely service appointment with a field agent. And with her solar panels taken care of, Jill can focus on growing her farm, which causes a growing need for energy and a growing opportunity for Ted and his sales team automatically, increasing sales, reducing service costs, and giving every customer an experience that's more human. Visit Trailhead to get started and see how you can make your network of connected products work for you with Salesforce IoT. Blaze your trail with Salesforce.
Okay, good morning everybody. Come on, good morning everybody. Wake up, everybody's here, everybody's awake, everybody can hear me. My name's Jonathan Dingwall and I work within the solution engineering part of Salesforce, and it's going to be my pleasure to take you through a really quick demonstration of what this Salesforce platform's all about for utilities customers. It's a really short demonstration and I'd like you to watch out for three things as I run through this quick demonstration. Firstly, I'm going to show you how Salesforce can give your employees a true 360-degree view of the consumer, making them more efficient, making them more productive in the contact center. Secondly, I'd like you to look out for how at Salesforce we connect all of the consumer's products to that customer record through our Internet of Things cloud, and how we use that to launch in-context journeys with our customers. And then thirdly, I'd like you to watch out for how we provide self-service tools to our consumers using artificial intelligence and all kinds of techniques to help you lower your cost to serve when you're kind of dealing with those consumers. So let's jump into the demonstration. So the first thing we're looking at here is a typical agent view of a customer, just to get ourselves familiar. And in this console view, our agents see a true 360-degree view of all of our customers interaction, all of the next best actions that we should be taking with our customer when we're chatting to them on the phone. We also see a picture of all of their energy usage, so I can look at their daily usage profiles, I can look at their payment history of the bills that they've paid in the billing platform, and all that information is being provided to me in one place as a Salesforce agent. Now, my particular customer that we're looking at today has got a connected device installed at her property. She's got a small domestic 4-panel solar PV system. And using the Internet of Things within Salesforce, we've connected that device to our customer record. And actually we can see on the screen here that this customer's got a small problem. The power output from her solar panel is declining over time. You know, the panel's probably ready for its seasonal angle adjustment to capture most of the sunlight. So we've been reading that information automatically in Salesforce from the device that's out at the customer site. So what happens to the customer when that problem arises? Well, automatically, that customer is being alerted to that problem. Based on her contact preferences, she prefers to receive SMS updates from us here in our utility company. And she's been sent a text message that's telling her that there's a problem with her solar panel production. And clicking on that text message is taking her to an online community where she can start to self-serve and resolve this problem for herself. In the community, she can browse knowledge articles that have been served up by the utility company. She can collaborate with other consumers who might have a similar problem and have a forum type discussion on how to solve her problem. Now, our customer isn't quite finding the real answer that she wants to see today in the community. So she's going to engage with the utility company through a live web chat. So here, right on her mobile phone, she's launching into a web chat experience with somebody in the contact center. Only this is no ordinary web chat. This is a chatbot that's been fueled by our artificial intelligence layer embedded right within the Salesforce platform. And the chatbot is asking our customer, hey, what's your problem? And my customer is starting to have an in-context discussion with that automated service, telling her that she's got a problem with her solar panels. So the chatbot really takes over at this point, and the chatbot, because we're connected to her devices, is automatically running a diagnostic process over her solar panels to understand the current output and the current situation. And more importantly, is going and finding the answer to Lauren's problem, to our customer's problem, and actually taking her through a step-by-step process of how she goes out and adjusts her solar panel to get the most from the power output and the kind of solar energy available. So it's telling her here, would you please go out, unscrew the little black knobs, change the angle of the solar panel, tighten them back up, and everything should be working again. And more importantly than that, at the end of the chatbot has also offered to monitor Lauren's output over the next 24 hours and send her an update maybe tomorrow with the good news. So that's all great. So what happens now our consumers made that adjustment to their on-site equipment is obviously we're now starting to monitor the improvement in power output that her PV system is generating. And we can see the output now starting to steadily increase again back to more expected levels. And as we talked about, because this is connected through our IoT platform, once that output returns back to normal levels, we start the next journey with our consumer. In this example, she's been sent another text message saying, "Dear customer, everything's back to normal. We've been monitoring that for you and everything looks like it's working again." So that's just a really quick demo of three major tenets of how we engage with consumers. The 360-degree view for our agents, the connection through our Internet of Things cloud to our consumers' products, and lastly, the artificial intelligence-fueled self-service techniques that we can provide to our consumers. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you, JD. So what's the secret sauce of all these use cases that you just saw? It's our customer success platform, which put the customer at the center of everything, the 360 view. This customer, where the contact center can use and interact to different channels. Those channels, and they can sell and serve this customer intelligently. So we are talking about also of product and services behind the meter. Not only commodities, but everything that goes behind the meters. And we have seen how this contact center is able to surface information from back-end system. You need this information in your contact center. You need energy consumption. You need billing information. And maybe something more. So this platform has a connected solution, a connected system solution, an integration solution that is able to surface all of this. But the most important is an agile platform that allows you to develop further. Now, this further, you can find them in an app exchange. You have Apple, you got the apps on your app exchange. Well, we got the same. We got an environment where we have 4,000 apps that you can download and complete your platform. So think about a billing system. A billing system for your value-added services. Yes, there is an app available for that you can download and configure to fulfill your needs. Self-service, online capability, intelligent. Chatbot, intelligent is now everywhere. Chatbots are important. These are embedded in the platform, regardless whether you are interested into sales, into service, into marketing, into connected. This is embedded in the platform. And most importantly, this is a cloud platform. We have 3 releases per year, which are available to you, and you have just to switch down at your convenience. So we drive innovation into the platform 3 times a year. Very important. No upgrades. Forget about these upgrades. It's there. Just configure it and use it. Good. Getting there. So our utility trailblazer. We have a wide range of utility trailblazer. I see some of you sitting here as well. So glad to see you. So whether it's a power and gas, whether it's a water company, whether it's renewables, whether it's services that you're selling, it's an amazing list of customers. Call to action. Tomorrow we're going to have Enel and Innogy on stage at the e-mobility keynote in Strasbourg. Come and listen to their strategy. They are happy customers of Salesforce. And finally, we are there. Where's the grass? Where's the turbine? Come and visit us if you want to hear more about the use cases and other customer success stories. I think that's all for us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for that. We have a minute for a question, if you would like to put a question to our speakers about anything they've spoken about now. No? Nobody fancies taking the cube? No? Okay, well, just thank you again. As Ben said, they're over there, they're not far. So, yeah, thank you again. Thank you for your time.
Good job, Carol. Thanks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and I've got a thing here. Good morning. Morning, everyone. This is most disconcerting because you can all hear me and I can't hear myself. But let's go for it. So this morning I'm going to talk about 3 drivers for IoT. They're interoperability, scalability, and security. We'll discover that they're all quite inextricably linked as well. So I've got a very short amount on interoperability and scalability and a lot more on security, so we see where we get to on time. So firstly, a little bit about Wi-Sun Alliance. So we're an industry alliance, but we're currently delivering a leading global specification for outdoor mesh networks, basically delivering interoperability across hundreds of product vendors, to leading smart city and utilities. Currently, Navigant reckons there are about 89 million Wi-Sun capable endpoints deployed worldwide. We have 200 member companies representing 25 countries. So if you think of Wi-Fi Alliance, Wi-Fi has done a great job of taking standards-based wireless communications, particularly for enterprise, domestic use, creating testing and certification that gives you interoperable products. So nowadays, everybody just takes Wi-Fi, they expect it to work. You use it without thinking about it. Now, that scenario doesn't exist in large-scale outdoor IoT at the moment, which is where Wi-Sun comes along. So we were originally formed to take standard, which was called 802.15.4G, so another, sort of rather long-winded, obscure name, and develop standards-based interoperable solutions for utilities and smart city type applications. So you can think of Wi-Sun as the certification organization for large-scale outdoor IoT networks. We were established in 2012. We're a not-for-profit organization. We're about promoting multi-vendor interoperability, vendor competition, and customer choice. So if you're a utility company, you might want to buy your meters from one vendor, but you may sometime later want to buy meters from somebody else and integrate them onto the same network. You may want to buy line sensors or DA equipment from yet another vendor. The way things stood up until fairly recently was that you would get locked to a vendor or that vendor's partners. So with Wi-Sun, we create robust certification programs for interoperability for wireless devices, for outdoor networks, home area networks, and other types of M2M network, which I'll cover later. So currently in Tokyo, for example, there are about 15 million meters with Wi-Sun technology being deployed en route to about 23 million by 2020. So we're member company driven. We have members who include cities and utilities, some government institutions and academia who are collaborating with product vendors and silicon vendors. And I already mentioned the two. So let's first look at interoperability. And there are two definitions here. First comes from IEEE, and it's the ability of a system or a product to work with other systems or product without special effort on the part of the customer. And interoperability is made possible by the implementation of standards. And that's absolutely key to all of this. Open standards are the starting point for interoperable products. The second is from Etsy. In a world of converging yet diverse technologies, complex ICT systems must communicate and interwork on all levels. That's interoperability. So if you're starting to deploy a smart meter network, you want the whole network to work. You want to be able to see energy usage information and take that into your back office and know it works, whether you're using Itron, Honeywell, Landis+Gyr, Census, whatever meter, it should just work on that network. Some of the benefits. So firstly, and these, I see these as obvious now, but not everybody does. So there's a greater choice for users and consumers. You can buy products from whomever you like. If somebody goes out of business, you can start buying from their competitors. And then you have obviously better pricing structures if you have competition between vendors. There's a confidence in product availability. If there is a particular line sensor you like from a small company that's using standards-based communications, if they go out of business or get bought out, then you can find a substitute company. Reduce risk. Lots of utility companies will do fairly extensive pilots of new technology, particularly with communications, to prove it works. And this brings us onto scale as well. If you use if you have interoperable products, and you've seen they've been widely deployed already, that reduces the amount of time you need for pilots. And then these are all great for customers and the consumers. For the manufacturers, interoperability increases the size of the target market. So if we look at, go back to Wi-Fi. So most of you are too young to remember this, but in the very early days of office LANs, there were a whole load of different competing technologies. They all had a niche. Wi-Fi brought along a huge market opportunity. So Wi-Fi manufacturers nowadays are selling billions of chips, either in PCs or phones or integrated. So, and it's a global market. Quick thing about scalability. So scalability, particularly utilities, smart cities, ultimately deploy very, very large networks. I mentioned Tokyo, they're going for 23 million meters. Cities like Miami have 4 million smart meters and 500,000 streetlights all on the same network. And those were deployed in an evolutionary fashion. So not all out in one go, but you need to know that's going to work. So you have dense urban deployments. There's a requirement for reliable and resilient connectivity, by which I mean, if you're reading meters, you want to be able to read every meter on that network. You don't want to need to send a meter reader out to just read 10 meters on the edge of the network. If there's disruption, and in certain parts of the world, increasingly we're seeing disruption from hurricanes, natural disasters, then the network needs to be resilient. And then applications are becoming more demanding, so there's increasing amounts of data. Certainly in smart cities, data traffic is rapidly growing, and there's a requirement for low latency. So you need proof of scalability. Right, quick talk about security. So I'm going to talk about two things, need for identity and the role of public key infrastructure. So first of all, identity is critical to security. So why some products and a number of other application technologies use XO 509 certificates. Certificates are very much like the way you have a birth certificate or a photo on your driving license that actually identifies the device. Your photo identifies that you are the owner of that driving license. So X509 is a world standard for device identity. It's an electronic document that gets stored in a product. It contains information about the device, also can contain information about manufacturer, owner or operator. It's what's called cryptographically verifiable, which means that if you have that certificate, then you can know that it's genuine, and the cryptography it uses is asymmetric. So let's say what happens if you don't have identity. So there are a number of ways that you can mess around with a network. The first, so disclosure, hard to see with the pointer there. So with disclosure, you basically, somebody can find out what's going on in your product. Compromise. So if a device is talking through a gateway or any particular device en route between the device and the back office, then if that device gets compromised, then you lose your security. Impersonation, I'll come to in a minute. Control. You can hijack, if you hijack a device out on the network, then you can use it to disrupt or infiltrate the network. The recent Mirai virus attacks are examples of that. So if you don't have identity, a device sending data to a cloud, and then some rogue agent can tap in and can eavesdrop and record the data. So you have a breach in your privacy of data. Another thing that can happen is a device can basically trap the data and then retransmit it, which is called a man-in-the-middle of attack. And then they can either compromise the data or they can pretend to be somebody else. So if you have certificate authentication and transport layer security, those are avoided. The device and the cloud now verify who they're talking to, and the data is encrypted over a secure channel. So certificates are issued by a certificate authority. Going down into the weeds a little bit here, but there is a purpose in all of this. And device and the cloud present their certificates to each other, and this is called mutual authentication. Now, one of the criticisms that people may have of certificate-based authority is that it's quite difficult to get into this market, in that if you are deploying certificates and you're a small product vendor, then you may not have access to the production of certificate authorities. Why some member companies have access to a YSUM partner who will sell the member companies anything from 10 certificates to 100 million certificates, depending on the volumes. So with PKI, and this is really critical, certificate-based authentication has been securing devices and communication channels for decades. So when you see HTTPS on your internet browser, you're seeing a TLS-based certificate-based authentication going on. So you can think of InfoSec, so the security suite behind all of this, as a Swiss Army knife of security protocols that offer authentication, ensuring a device is who it says it is, encryption, providing secrecy of data, data integrity, making sure what's transmitted really is what it says it is, and authorization, which is critical, which is devices' roles in an IoT network may change. What you need from them may change. So authorization gives you effectively real-time control of the access to the network, the privileges that are granted to devices. PKI is massively scalable as well. So as I mentioned, you can deploy devices with 100 million devices onto a large network here. And the device authentication verification can scale to those levels. They're interoperable. And if you compare this sort of verification method with username passwords, there's just no comparison. I mean, we've already seen when people deploy IoT devices that maybe have preset username password, it's possible to hack into those devices. There's user error. People can hack in and then they can exploit the network through a hack. That's not possible with PKI. So there are two parts to this. Manufacturing part, when you build a device, you install software that has the trusted roots, it has the birth certificate with protected private key, and then when you enroll a device on the network, it comes on, it authenticates, and then there is the equivalent of the driver's license can be deployed to the device, and that lets it access the network in the way it was. So, going to talk a little bit about Wi-SUN Field Area Network. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we deploy interoperable standards-based wireless mesh, and these cover a number of use cases. Initially, we were focused on utilities with advanced meter infrastructure, EV charging, for example, distribution automation. Distributed generation has become a fairly key factor in requiring large amounts of data with low latency to carry across a utility IoT network. And then, in addition, things like outdoor street lighting, traffic management, parking, structural health, and other applications such as agriculture are relying on large amounts of data and large IoT networks. So, benefits. Wireless mesh networks deliver resilience. If a particular node fails on a network, then there will be an alternative route. Mesh networks change as the landscape changes. So if you have new tower block appears somewhere, so line of sight radio didn't work, a mesh network will route around. We implement high levels of IoT security and facilitating this ecosystem of non-proprietary solutions. There are currently around 80 to 90 certified interoperable products from Wi-SUN. Flexibility and reduced costs. So it's really important that vendors have choice. As IoT grows, then it's important that time to market is reduced and that innovators can use existing technology solutions to help deliver their applications to market. And we're already proven in the world's largest outdoor IoT networks. So we recently launched a certification product for field area networks. There are some benefits shown here, all of which I've mentioned before. We are member-driven organization. We have a whole load of resources on our website. Please take a look. Take a look at the website. We have a booth here, which is BE1 in the other hall. Welcome, come along, ask questions, challenge the technology. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. I don't know whether anybody's got any questions for Phil. Anything he's mentioned this morning? No? Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you, Phil. Thank you. Great. So we're just going to take a short break because this is a rather packed agenda. So I just want to take 2 minutes to give you a chance to sort of go and grab a drink of water if you want, or a quick coffee, because we're going to go right through now until 1:30. So 2 minute break and then we'll start again. Thank you. Good. Great. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. So let's kick back off. We're now going to hear from Richard Stanvik, who's the Ecosystem Business Development at Multitech. And Richard's going to be talking about how Multitech enables connected use cases across utilities. So I'll now hand over. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's see, do we have this chap on? Excellent. Good. So thanks for coming, guys. So I work for Multitech, 48 years in the making, doing connectivity devices for industrial IoT applications. So we basically make much of the kit that hooks things up, from agriculture to industry to healthcare. But today it's, of course, focused on utilities. So I'm going to cover a bit about the stuff we've done with utilities. But first, a few pieces of food for thought when you design connected systems. Now, first of all, let's position us in the grand scheme of things. This is in essence what we do. One end of the scale, one end of the slide here, you have the end devices, the sensors and the actuators out in the field, be that on the meter, beyond the meter, or on the other side of the meter, be that a demand response system, renewable energy, whatever you have in this case. I'm going to show you a few use cases from some of these scenarios later on. In the middle, you have some transport network allowing you to ferry data from the edge to the place where it can be visualized, analyzed, and controlled. And on the other end, you have exactly that, the point of visualization, analytics, and control. So we are basically involved on the left side of things. We do the enabler for the end device, i.e. the modem or the module, if you so wish, for wireless communication, for licensed and unlicensed long-range communication technologies. We do actually the radio network, the transport network for unlicensed technology, in this case LoRaWAN that I'm going to talk about. And we do part of the core network where you basically have the control point for data, the data landing site, network signaling and application signaling landing site. We leave visualization analytics presentation to our partners, be that a utility-specific company or one of the big data analytics companies like IBM or AWS or Microsoft, etc. So then, a few things to consider. I mean, we've heard lots and lots about technology X versus technology Y versus technology Z. This is not about that. This is about some other aspects. What is key for your use case? Is the business model imperative? Do you want a CapEx or an OpEx-based business model? Do you want to use a public network where you basically leave the network deployment and management to a third party and pay them for that possibility? Can you do that due to data integrity? Can you afford to give your data to a third party to manage in spite of all the security and data protection mechanisms they have in place? Do you want to outsource network management to a third party, or is it imperative that you have that in-house? Now, these are all aspects that basically guide whether you want to go for a public network operated by a third party, or whether you want to own the network, say, deploy your enterprise or even the private network. They, in turn, impact the business model, they impact the security or integrity aspect, they impact the management aspect, they impact how quickly you can deploy, etc. Now, these factors all, in turn, map to the use case. So your use case will dictate which model is best. Also, look at the architecture. Do you want a centralized architecture where you have one go-to point, one control point, one visualization point, one analytics point for data, as well as network signaling? Do you need to have a large geographic cover, or do you want many distributed pieces of cover where you instead manage all these disparate assets in a central point? Some use cases map to the former, some use cases map to the latter, and the key takeaway here is the use case dictates which kind of architecture you want. It's not necessarily so that all use cases map well to a central point of control. For instance, reasons of backhaul uptime, you might want to distribute the management point. If you have one central point, you rely on the backhaul always being available. If you distribute that, you get rid of one potential hazardous or fault source. But on the other hand, you need to pay with work or with functionality to manage all these distributed assets. But again, the use case dictates this. This is not something you should set by technology. This should be set by what the use case dictates. Then, which technology do you want to use? Now, here I'm highlighting some of the licensed versus unlicensed wide area technologies around at this point. So cellular, I mean, we've seen a lot about cellular revolution in the recent years. Here we have seen 2G, 3G, HSP, HSP+. Now we have LTE category 4, LTE category 1 being deployed, category M deployed in the US, in France and some other regions. At the same time, NB-IoT, clean slate, i.e. new development technology has appeared and it's being deployed in many European and Asian countries, and actually also has a foothold in the US. So there's a range of licensed technologies, and they all work if a licensed technology and a centralized architecture and an operator model is what you want. I mean, anybody can go and deploy this, but it comes at a pretty hefty price if you are to acquire spectrum. Now, this is why we can see the classical cellular technologies now also being deployed in unlicensed band, but that hasn't really taken off yet. Normally, if you want to go unlicensed, that means anybody can play, anybody can buy equipment. It comes at a lower cost, but unlicensed also means that you cannot guarantee quality of service. Yeah? So for safety critical applications, it might not be the best choice, but for many applications I'm going to talk about here in the utility arena, it's more than adequate. Here we find stuff like Sigfox, LoRa, Indian Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, etc. There's a range of technologies at your disposal. Some have long range, some have short range, some have high data rates, some have low. I'm going to focus in on LoRa because we have chosen LoRa as the prime wide area unlicensed technology to deploy. Not because it's a perfect fit everywhere, but rather because it's an adequate fit across a wide range of use cases. So the lesson here, again, as with the architecture and the type, the technology is dictated by the use case, and the family of technologies, be that licensed or unlicensed, that is all set by your use case. What are your requirements? Do you need the aspects of licensed, or do you need, or can you be satisfied with what unlicensed technology gives you? We see loads and loads of use cases where LoRa is perfectly adequate. For others, we indeed use cellular. Now, then, a few things to consider. Edge compute. Much of the data that will be collected through all the sensors or that will be acted upon through actuators will have to be managed or should be managed as close as possible to the endpoint, simply because you save on backhaul traffic that you might otherwise pay for. You also get less requirement for data intensity in the data center. You can distribute your compute platforms out to the edge. And that is possible now. I mean, you can buy small, price-wise, cheap processors. You have real-time operating systems that can run at the edge. You have wireless technologies allowing you to do that, that gives adequate data transfer rates to the endpoint from the cloud and vice versa. And most importantly, at least as far as I'm concerned, is that you have the scalable security model allowing you basically to push the security that you might have in the cloud all the way to the edge. And you can guarantee the same security model all the way. Now, all this allows basically to do edge compute. Your sensor or actuator can contain enough intelligence to do an initial round of data filtering before you send it off. Trust and trustworthiness. Well, this is my pet personal project, so I'm kind of deeply entrenched in this. There are various aspects to this. Yeah, you need to ensure that you create secure devices, secure boxes, virtual or physical such, i.e. reduce the attack vectors. You need to have tamper resistance. You need to have secure interfaces. You need a watchdog that guarantees consistent behavior. You need a secure boot. You need an update mechanism that ensures that the device is always up to date and does what it says on the tin. Yeah? You need End-to-end services, authentication, is a device what or who it says it is. Authorization, is it allowed to do what it wants to do? We said already firmware update, device management, poke the device remotely, ensure that it does what the control panel instructed to do. And you need a management infrastructure that allows you to control both the end-to-end services and the end devices. Now, once you've done all that, you need to go and deploy. I'm showing the architecture similar to the architecture diagram you saw before. In this case, visualizing how LoRa works. Just to show you the elements, any networks look like this, yeah? On one end, the end devices, then you have the radio access network, then you have what we call the core network, or where data and network management happens, and then you have your visualization, analytics, control points at the end. This would normally be a web-based interface. It normally lives in the cloud. This would be your end device sensors, be that meters or beyond the meter assets that you want to manage. Now, in the case of LoRa, or for that matter in the case of cellular, base stations or node Bs are deployed. The core network is where data lands and where management happens. Could be in the operator network, or in the case of LoRa, this could happen physically in the gateway or in your cloud, as you so wish. Now, once we've done all that, once we covered all the aspects, we analyzed the needs of the use case. We found out which technology is best fit for purpose. We've gone and deployed a network. Either we bought into an operator network, or we've gone and deployed our own, say, LoRa network, if now LoRa happens to be the most applicable technology. Then, use cases. So let me give you some feelings for what we have done in the past. A prime use case of network infrastructure management, in this case a electricity distribution network operator. They have chosen a programmable router to do two key things. One is to reduce dependency on the legacy radio network that previously was deployed to use this. They are, in other words, moving from a legacy technology over to cellular, simply because it's there, and for that business case, cellular was the most applicable technology. It contains programmability, so you get an ability to control and to push intelligence from the edge to the device and do management already there before data is sent back. And you get a bidirectional control point. You can control the nodes in the network that are under the control of the router, as well as measure and quantify. Is it in need of service? Does it need an upgrade, etc.? On our stand, at the Multitech stand, we are showing a few use cases. So we have Digimondo, the German LoRa network operator, showing some connected city and connected building use cases. In this case, they have deployed a LoRa network with a centralized core network that lives in their cloud, allowing you to visualize, analyze, and control data in their cloud. And they are now using this to monitor heating ducts, heating systems for district heating in quite a few German towns. They're also working together with one of the railroad operators, ensuring that facilities, clocks, waste bins, cleaning, management of the facilities, etc., are kept up to scratch. We have ISS, the facility management company, worldwide organization managing much of the office blocks around the world. They have done a similar setup, but they have opted for, again, a LoRa network, but they have gone for a local deployment model where much of the intelligence happens in the gateway. So the cloud here is used for visualization, analytics, and control, but the actual data management happens in the gateway, creating fault resistance and depending less on the availability of backhaul. They have instrumented office blocks with a series of LoRa gateways. I think they have used one per floor, hooked them up to a series of sensors, be that for cleaning or for energy consumption savings purposes, water management, etc. And they are now actually doing that on a grand scale for Deutsche Telekom's various office buildings. Another use case showing how you can use not just sensing but also actuators is from C-Things and their partner ISTA, who have developed their own end device. In this case, again, they've gone for LoRa as an applicable technology for private network deployment. It contains sensors for measuring, in this case, energy consumption or heating consumption. And it also contains an actuator to manage the heating control system, in this case, a remotely controlled actuator valve. allowing them to, in essence, switch on and off heating. Now, this allows quite significant cost savings in the deployments that they've done. We can talk more about how we quantify that on our stand, where they have some interesting figures of how this deployment have yielded some good savings. Now, the benefits are obvious. It prevents fraud, it gives you an external control point, it allows you to quantify the savings you do by getting continuous meter readings, etc. And there's a whole range of other use cases beyond this. So from pest management, a hooked up rat trap that signals when it is about to be emptied, to parking control, how you manage parking spaces using connected parking sensors, either using cellular or, in this case, LoRa technology. Senner have connected their water meters using LoRa. We showed a connected waste bin using NB-IoT cellular technology at last year's Utility Week. We have Synox monitoring bikes in the city of Montpellier. We have SunPower monitoring the energy production in solar panels using a router with a certain amount of intelligence. We have FlashNet monitoring and managing connected streetlights, both giving indication of when service is due, as well as giving control points, switching them on and off at will. And we have EcoSense monitoring electricity distribution infrastructure, in this case pylon integrity monitoring, ensuring that pylons deployed in far-off regions are indeed standing up and not broken. There's plenty more use cases beyond these. I'm just showing you a snapshot. Now we talked about some unlicensed and licensed technologies, say NB-IoT, cellular, LoRa, etc. There's a whole range of technologies we can use. We're not limited by that. Again, going back to the start, rather consider the aspects of the use case. What is the preferred business model? What is the preferred architecture? What is the preferred deployment model? Then go select the technology. That is the takeaway. And finally, a few words on us. We have some footprint in the industry, and we've been around kind of almost since I was born. So I think we can, with some credibility, say that we know a bit about how to hook up industrial IoT applications. So we are present in the other hall. Feel free to come and see me after the talk here, or come by our stand. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Richard. Are there any questions, Richard? We've got time for a quick one. No? Okay. Thank you again, Richard. Really appreciate that. Thank you for your time. So next, we're going to hear from Greg Slako, who's the Energy and Utilities Industry Solution Director at Velocity. He's going to be talking about outpacing customer expectations with the industry cloud. Come up. And the mic's there. Sit. Yes. Okay. Brilliant. And that's just a click.
This guy's just a right arrow for next slide.
Yeah, that one's go forward, that one's go back.
Great.
Okay with that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Excellent.
I'll give you a 5-minute warning. Just hands.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks. Thanks everyone for coming along to look at my presentation here. So yeah, my name's Greg Slako. I'm the industry principal for energy in EMEA. I work for Velocity, and we provide industry solutions in the cloud for energy and utilities, and we're a ISV partner of Salesforce. So there's a lot of challenges and a lot of opportunities right now in the marketplace for energy suppliers. All industries have been affected by this, I guess, massive amounts of data that are coming out through digital disruption, all industries. So specifically in energy and utilities, it's not just a move to smart infrastructure, smart meters, etc. It's, connected home, all the data that's been spun out of that. And then, of course, environmental concerns and move to other energy sources as well. So you need to be able to deal with all this, but it's not just dealing with it from an operational point of view. Your customers know about all these things, and they really want you to to turn these things into opportunities and offerings for them as well. I mean, they know that there's green energy about. They know that they've bought a smart thermostat from you. They know that you've come and installed a smart meter, and so they want something back from that. And so, the bar's been risen in terms of customer expectations off the back of this. And then then you've also got your day-to-day stuff that's always been there. You know, regulatory changes. The regulatory world keeps on turning. You've got price caps coming in the UK. Thanks, Teresa. Interval settlement, as those smart meters get rolled out, the market's going to move to interval settlements. Next day switching, that's coming to try and improve the competitiveness of the market, and so you've got to keep on top of that as well. And to add to that challenge, of course, you've got these deep siloed legacy systems that are great for what they were designed to do. They've probably been in 10 years or so, but they weren't necessarily designed to handle these new processes and obligations that are on you. And then at the same time, customer expectations just keep rising. Consumers are exposed to Amazon, Netflix, Apple, all provide them with a fabulous experience. They don't really see why they shouldn't get a similar sort of experience from their energy supply. And then, of course, it's not really a level playing field either. So new entrants into the market, to encourage competition, they don't have to subscribe to all of the government schemes, eco, heat assistance, things like that, until they get to a certain size. So they've less regulations and restrictions on them, and also they're starting from a clean slate in terms of their technology stack as well. And new entrants to the market, they're not necessarily small players either. I mean, an energy supply is not necessarily their main revenue stream. It could be, oil companies coming in as part of their electric vehicle play. It's like, well, I'm going to bundle up energy as well for the home. I make zero margin on it, but that's fine because my offering looks better. Or it could be some of the big consumer brands are coming in with energy offerings as well. So you've got to deal with that onslaught too. So the kind of outcomes that we see at Velocity that you really require, to compete and a baseline of really where you really need to get to with your business transformation, these ones here. So if you've got other industries converging or coming across into your space, and you're going to compete, maybe you're going to start selling insurance or telco or electric vehicle roaming support, things like that. So you've got to start supporting other industries. And of course, you've got a tech stack that was built just for supporting the energy business. And of course, if you're going to support these other verticals, your 360-degree view of the customer needs to be spot on as well. I mean, customer rings up, it's like, well, you're selling me insurance. Why don't you know about that? You're selling me energy. Well, you know about that. But, I mean, I expect you to know everything that you're selling me. And, of course, you may not necessarily want to sell people anything more. If they're in debt to you, they probably can't handle any more product offering. You may want to sell it to them. So having that 360-degree view of the customer is pretty mandatory now. Business process agility with those regulatory changes, etc. You need to be able to change those quickly, easily. The user experience, I mentioned Amazon and Netflix, so consumers expect a really nice user experience. And you've got to be able to fail fast. You try new things, try to stay competitive, bring new offerings to the market, try them out. If they don't work, well, you need to find that out quickly without having a massive sunk investment to get those up and running. So once you've got those transformation enablers in place, the world keeps spinning, and you've got to keep up with. You've got to keep innovating to just stay in place. So incremental innovation, that may be things like, I don't know, your energy traders have gone and got a good deal on energy in the afternoon, so you want to start pushing products like that. Maybe spinning up regional brands quickly and easily, or targeting certain demographics. There's initiatives underway in various countries that just target millennials with a smart meter at a certain income bracket. So if you want to do that sort of stuff, the incremental innovation, try it out, see if it works. You need a platform to be able to support that. And of course, the disruptive stuff, which is going after new industries, perhaps things like offering bespoke or custom pricing to residential consumers. As smart meters reach good levels of penetration and settlement follows, then you may want to treat residential customers like commercial customers or industrial customers and tailor energy pricing and contracts to their usage. And so you need to be able to handle both incremental and disruptive innovation. So that's all great. I mean, I'm probably telling you how to suck eggs here on a lot of this stuff, but how do you go about it? Sort of two main things you need. You can't really just make it a technology play, introducing new technology to the business. You've also got to have, a digital transformational culture as well. So that means enabling your employees to be able to communicate and collaborate digitally as well. Having a platform that supports the employee. Your millennial employees, this is probably second nature to them, but the baby boomers in your business, they've got the business expertise and business background knowledge that you kind of need to leverage to implement these things, and so you need to cater for both. So the way that we address this at Velocity is, we use the Salesforce platform. It allows team collaboration. It's a great platform, easy to configure, great adoption, and people really love it. So that's what we've based our offering on. And so, if we look at what Velocity does around the industry-specific solutions, we extend Salesforce into 5 verticals, with energy being one of those. And so we provide platform capabilities that bring Salesforce to life for utilities. So enhanced UI, energy industry data model. I mean, CRMs don't really know what a meter or a service point, etc., is out of the box. So we provide all that. Process libraries that you can download into your business that sort of look after 80% of the process, and you're able to configure those easily for your specific needs. And then we bring additional capabilities specifically to energy into the stack as well. So enterprise product catalog that you can configure all your different offerings in, promotion management, CPQ, and then full contract lifecycle and orchestration and fulfillment of orders. And then we're multi-channel as well. So all of our processes and technologies deploy once, and you can render them over multiple channels. You can pick the journey up cross-channel, and we can take feeds from whatever and across all channels and touch points that you have with your customers. So in terms of an industry-specific process that's sort of out of the box with the Velocity, and a case in point, we've got a process here around B2B contracting and quoting. So taking some sites in here, uploading them into the CRM, into Salesforce. This could be done by a TPI or a broker, or it could be the users, your sales users. And then configuring the opportunity here, selecting some. This is based on is a UK demo, but selecting some sites here for a multi-site B2B quote. Creating the opportunity when you think it's going to close, and then setting up the quote details. I mean, you may want to do various quotes under the same opportunity for different periods of time, different amount of months. Choosing the product is calling out to various systems to bring some prices back in here, and then going in and configuring the quote. So I mean, you may be selling energy at no margin at all, but you may want to bundle in energy-related products and services to make the deal look better. So we offer those sort of capabilities as well. So this is our CPQ engine, and bringing the various products into the basket. You can override them if you want a discount, or if you need to manipulate prices to make the deal look a bit better. You can do all that on the fly in the cart. And then we render quotes, we render contracts as well, digitally. All of the clauses in the contracts are auditable and set up, and they have conditional logic around them. So depending on the products you're selling, the right clauses are brought into the contract. Then comparing versions of the contracts as well. And then we've got out of the box integrated. Integration with leveraging approval processes here, in case your sales guys have sharpened the pencil a bit too much. And then we've got integrated e-signature capabilities as well. And so running through the process of sending that contract out for signature. I mean, one of the big challenges, especially B2B pricing and contracting, is just turning quotes around quickly. This process you've been watching is 3-4 minutes long to get a quote out the door. Now, of course, you want some time for review by the customer, etc. But on a happy path, you can turn a multi-site quote round in sort of in a few minutes. And so signing the contract here and sending it back in, and then storing a record of that contract against the original quote and opportunity. So you've got a record there when it's time for renewal, etc. So all of this is built, configured, no code. It's just configured on our stack. Really easy to do, and you can set up guided processes. I mean, some of the pricing processes are quite difficult. Set up guided processes is an example of how we can change those processes pretty easily. No code. Just coming into our tool set here with the OmniScript, making a change, just adding some extra text into the top of the step here. And you're able to change that and deploy that real time. Everything's versioned, and you can, and there it's ready to go. And you keep versions of those. You can reuse. You can set it up as blocks that you can reuse in other processes. And that's an overview of our toolset. Yeah, so we're an ISV partner of Salesforce's. We have an offering across 5 different verticals, so utilities and energy, insurance, health insurance, communications, and public sector. So if you're looking to take your business into a sort of multi-play environment, we cover a lot of industries, and we 3 releases a year, 100% additive to Salesforce, so no custom code, completely supported roadmap as well, we're live in some big utilities around Europe already. So if you want to come and see more of what we can do, we're over at the Salesforce booth. So come and see us. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any questions for Greg? No, I'm sure he'll be around for the rest of the day anyway. Thank you, Greg. Thank you again. Okay, so now we're sort of rapidly approaching the midday mark. Taking us up to midday is our next speaker, and I'm going to apologise in advance for horrendously pronouncing her name. It's Gitte Stort Christensen, and that's really bad. I apologise. She's the consultant for Energinet, and she's going to be talking about market development through cooperation and small-scale piloting. And that one to go forward and that one to go back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Nice to be here. Just a few words about me before I start, or where I work. I work at Energinet, which is the Danish transmission system operator, and we own and operate the overall electricity system, but also the gas transmission system. I work in the electricity market department, and I have hands-on experience with co-creation and small-scale piloting. Today, I'm going to share with you why we co-create, how we do it, but also what are the benefits and what does it take for an organization to do this co-creation. But before I dive in to my presentation, I would just like to share with you or put a few words on what I mean when I say co-creation and small-scale piloting. Co-creation is when we do an active involvement of stakeholders to jointly develop new and innovative solutions that supports the green transitions for the benefit of the society and the consumers. And when I say small-scale piloting, I mean these small-scale, short-term experiments that allows us to learn how a large-scale project might work in practice. Okay. So why do we do co-create? I have three main messages on that. The energy system is changing, and it's changing rapidly. In Denmark, today, renewable energy constitutes 63% of electricity consumption, and in 2050, we must be 100% independent of fossil fuels. This means we have to adapt to a new reality, and also these new value chains that are arising with this abundance of data-driven services and applications, which adds a layer to the existing markets and infrastructure, meaning that when we are securing or ensuring the security of supply, we also need to do managing a digital platform. And we need to keep up the pace. The whole utility sector, that's why perhaps we are here today. The acceleration of this green transition is so big right now. So if we don't keep up, we risk not being a part of it or missing out of the optimal solutions. And we, as a TSO, we do not have all the answers. So our mission is to look for new perspectives, work across sectorials, and also be curious about what's happening around us. And doing so calls for co-creation, but also small-scale piloting, so we can do this together. And some of you might wonder why she's saying co-creation, why she's not just saying cooperation. And my answer to this is we do both. Co-creation is just another way of cooperating, but with the specific intent of developing a new and innovative solution to a problem where we don't know the solution yet. And in this way, small-scale piloting is a good way of testing or make this concept proof of an idea and kill it if it's not viable. So, how do we do this? And I have 4 examples for you today, each showing a part of this co-creation and small-scale piloting, how we do this. First, a TSO-DSO project on tariffs, and a TSO-TSO project on cross-border data access. Then the Open Innovation Challenge, where we co-create with engineering students and the like, and then Open Door Lab, where we co-create with whoever wants to co-create. My first example, the TSO-DSO project on tariffs. When we, to be honest, when we started out on this project, we actually didn't co-create with the DSOs. We did 2 separate projects, the TSO and the DSO. But we need to adapt this tariff design, to adapt it to support flexibility And we did do these separate projects, and we tried to coordinate across the TSO and DSOs, but it didn't really. We didn't really succeed. So in the meantime, we had enhanced our TSO DSO cooperation, creating this market facilitation committee, and there we all of a sudden had a forum where we could discuss the issues as neutral market facilitators, and the idea arose that why not do this tariff project together. So we did, with the purpose of creating the right and non-conflicting incentives for the consumers so that it can support flexibility. And the reason why this was the right way to go about it is because we can't succeed without one another. And we have this common goal across TSO and DSO, so let's join forces. We have only just started and we don't know where it's going to end. But I do know that it takes quite a lot of trust between the TSO and the DSOs. It also takes courage to do something something different that we're not used to doing. And it also is going to take a lot of compromises, because when we are doing this, making these joint design criteria for the TSOs and the DSO, we need to do some compromises. Okay, my next example is cross-border data access. This was a project that we did together with the Estonian TSO Ellering. And an important part of market development is making data accessible to support the development of new products and innovative services to the consumers. And in 2013, Energinet launched its first data access portal called the Data Hub. And the second version of this portal was launched in 2016. And with this, we added this consumer-centric approach. And we also had this third-party access to consumer data. But what we've experienced in the 2 years that the Data Hub has existed is that this delegation process to consumer data is very cumbersome and it's very complicated. So we need to do something more simple. At the same time, we found out that the Estonian TSOs experienced the same issues as we did. And so we decided to create a small-scale pilot project using blockchain technology to test this cross-border data access, and with the intention to create a secure, simple and easy solution, as easy as swiping a tablet. And we designed it as a pilot project to gain new knowledge fast and to make this concept proofing of an idea, and we did something just acting instead of just talking, and finally it turned out that the idea, although it was valuable learning for us to test how can we create a simple solution and how can blockchain be used as a technology, we decided not to go on building the actual solution because we estimated that it was too early still. But the way we started out, it was because of one of my colleagues. He networked with a colleague of the Estonian TSO. So networking here was really the key issue, and also being curious, and also as a company you have to be risk prepared, because when we started out this project, we couldn't say this is going to be the result of this project. So as a company, you have to say, okay, that's okay. Let's still spend some time and energy and effort on this project. My third example is actually taking place right now. In Denmark, there's this Open Innovation Challenge, which is the Danish Technical University who's hosting this event, but they are inviting the sector, the industry, to come and give the students participating some challenges. And our case is how can we create a more sustainable energy system and thereby contribute to the goal of 55% renewable energy in 2013. and the end goal of becoming a climate neutral society no later than 2050. And why do this? Why invite all these students to do this? Well, for us, it's all about generating new perspectives on the challenges of the green transition. At the same time, it allows us to create awareness about energy data and all the possibility. But also for us as a company, talking to all these students allows us to obtain access to new knowledge, a new technological knowledge, to get totally updated on this front. And this is all about accessibility, and not only accessibility to the data, but also accessibility to the resources of Energinet. So we decided that, okay, we are there and we're open for questions, and just kind of all the students could come and ask the market experts on whatever questions that you have. It calls for curiosity, but also the willingness to share data and knowledge. Okay, last but not least, my final example, which is kind of a synthesis of our experiences with co-creation and small-scale piloting. We decided that maybe we should even practice what we preach even more. So we created this open door lab with the purpose of inviting. It could be market actors, it could be students, whoever wants to or whoever has an idea to test out using the energy data. Invite them to come and ask us questions, but perhaps also do kind of this small sprint, an intensive development process where we join forces, and then we work with the idea that has been brought in by the participants. And we are only just starting this, so I can't give you a concrete example, but just to show you this is kind of the way we have to be open and do innovative, create this platform for innovation, but also try act instead of just talking, and then provide this simple and fast way of concept proofing an idea. And I've written on the side, it takes innovative fire. You really have to believe that this is a good idea. It takes courage, because we are very much leaning out, doing something that's not an ordinary TSO business here. And it takes dedication both from Energinet in regards to resources and knowledge sharing, but also from the people that are presenting their idea to us. Okay, just to sum up the benefits of co-creation and small-scale piloting, I put a few bullets for you here. First and foremost, it promotes cross-sectorial solutions, and that are so needed for us in the utility sector. It creates coherent and longer-lasting solutions. It brings out new perspectives, and it generates new knowledge fast. And when we are generating this new knowledge fast, it also fosters agile development. And last but not least, also this idea by failing fast, because when we use these small-scale pilots methods, it allows us to kill the ideas that are not viable and do it relatively fast, saving us both time and money. My last message today is this: what does it take then for an organization to use these methods? And I have 3 messages, and they are all very closely linked. It takes leadership focus and development, because when you do co-creation and when you do small-scale piloting, it kind of, in a way, changes the premises of leadership. You have to be kind of aware, when do we co-create and when do we not, because it's not the right solution always to co-create. It takes the right competencies, but also it takes this kind of cultural change in the company. You have to have this, or at least in the parts of the companies that are working with these co-creation and small-scale piloting processes, because it takes a certain mindset to do this. You have to be risk prepared, and you have to be innovative, dedicated to this. And this brings me to the last, this thing about the right competencies. Because perhaps when focusing, as a company, focusing more and more on co-creation and small-scale piloting, maybe you have to add a supplement to the resources that you have already. The more you have to have a mix of competencies covering both the business, perhaps the engineering, economical stuff, but also this kind of new design and innovation thinking. And it takes a mix of competencies to succeed with this. So to focus both on from the leader on developing both the culture and attracting the right competencies. Yes. I guess that was some word from me. Any questions? Or also please feel free to catch me afterwards if you have any specific question or anything you need to have elaborated on. No?
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. Really interesting. So, round of applause. Thank you for that one. Brilliant. No problem. Thank you. Right. So, moving on next. Next, we should be hearing from, again, apologies for the pronunciations, Guy de Cook, who's the Regulatory Affairs Manager, Association of the European Heating Industry, who will be talking about heating technologies and utilities partners waiting to be coupled. So, Geet, are you around? No? Okay, well, we'll just give you a couple of minutes to turn up, and then we'll kick off with his presentation. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. I seem to have lost the speaker, which is really careless of me. You'd expect something better. Really kindly, Matthias Strobe, pardon for the pronunciation, has kindly stepped in and said he'll do his presentation early for us. So Matthias is the Business Development and Research Project Coordinator at IMEC Energyville. He's going to be talking about Home Lab, a real home environment to test and validate interconnected residential systems and devices. So looking forward to this one. Let's just pull you up. There we go. And you have your presentation loaded. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. Hand the mic to you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. So I'm Matthias, so I work for IMEC. IMEC is a Flemish research institute on ICT, both hardware and software. And I work for a department that focuses especially on the software and the communication side. We're also affiliated with Energyville, which is a Flemish research institute on energy. Today I want to tell you something about IoT standards and communication in smart homes, and then also something about a recent initiative of us being the Home Lab. So if you look at our smart homes, smart buildings, they are becoming more and more connected and smarter because we want to empower our users. We want to deliver new services to the building occupants. We want to improve their comfort. We want to monitor their health, etc. We also want that our houses automatically notice that there is a problem and that they can on time generate an alarm or maybe schedule maintenance. And of course we want our buildings and our homes to have a very low environmental impact, so that they become very energy efficient, that they can use as much as possible renewable energy, preferably locally generated. To realize that, more and more communication is added to all kinds of building systems, to devices and sensors in our homes that all generate a lot of data. And with that data, you can then monitor things, you can automatically control systems, and you can create new services. Unfortunately, a lot of these systems work quite isolated. You can only control one single device at a time, most of the time, and just do something with that device. Of course, if you could create services that can control or use data from multiple devices, from multiple vendors in your building, in your home, you could create much more interesting services and, in fact, create even more smarter homes. But that's not easy because there are so many different ways of communication and so many IoT standards out there. Etsy once did a survey on the amount of IoT standards that exist in all different domains, and they found over 300 of those standards. And of course, you have a lot more systems that just use a proprietary solution. So that makes it difficult to do this kind of integration. You can also see, if you look at the IoT value chain at the right, here that a lot of money goes in fact to a systems integration, for example in larger buildings. If you look at a typical home environment, you often see what happens on the left of the slide. Every time that you buy a connected product, you also have to install a new gateway, connect it to your home router, and only then you can do something with your connected device. But it stays difficult to do something in combination with another device that you have bought maybe a few months earlier. This can lead to customer frustration. This can also hinder market adoption and, of course, limit innovation. Of course, this IoT landscape is a very dynamic landscape. You have a lot of activities going on, mergers, collaborations, etc. And not all 300 standards will survive in the future. What we see here, you can see a number of important communication protocols and standards that are used. You can see, especially at the lower levels of the communication stack, that more and more internet protocols are used, like IP, TCP, UDP, and also HTTP and CoAP to expose services as web services. So that's already a good step. So to make integration somewhat easier. On the higher levels, where you specify what the actual meaning is of data, and where you do the data modeling, you still have more initiatives existing next to each other. So there you still need to do quite a lot of translation between different systems if you want to do integration. And I think this will continue like this because, of course, there is a lot of competition between companies and organizations. There is also a lot of difference between different application domains. So I don't think we will ever have one universal standard. So there will always be a need to do some translation. If you are a system manufacturer and you want to make a connected product, it's of course not easy to decide which standard you should use because there are so many. Do you use something that already exists for a long time, that has proven that it works, but maybe is a bit outdated? Do you choose something that is more new, but you're not sure if it will exist in a few years? Or maybe you just choose your own implementation, your own way of communication, because then you can more easily make something that is optimized for your own products. But in our opinion, in our group, we think it's best to go for to use these kind of standards and to go for open interfaces, because then it's much easier to integrate with other systems. And we think that on the long term, that will provide more value to most companies if you are open to work together with systems from other vendors, and as such creates additional value for your end user. If you use standards, it's also easier to do certification of your products. It's easier to maintain your code base on the long term. Of course, then, if you create such a connected product and you also create an open interface, so you allow that your system can work together with other systems, it becomes harder to test your system. You have to test your end-to-end connectivity in a real environment. You have to test what these new ways of interoperability really mean for your end user, how they cope with that, how they interact with your connected device, how you can deploy it in a real environment. That's not always easy to do for companies, especially small companies just in a lab environment. If you directly go to a field trial and in real homes of end users, this might give a lot of overhead if you want to change something to your setup. So you need something in between, and that's why we created the Home Lab. So the Home Lab is a real house on our campus in Ghent in Flanders, which is meant to test all kinds of IoT solutions and services in a realistic environment, so also with real end users, but at the same time it's still a lab environment, so it's a very controllable, very flexible environment where you can easily change something in your setup and where you can easily add or remove technology if you see that something works or doesn't work. It's built with our own budget, so it's not sponsored by large companies, because as an independent research organization we want to collaborate with everyone and use it for all kinds of innovations in Flanders but also outside of Flanders. Of course, if you want to install all the time new technology or remove technology, you have to have a very flexible environment. So we try to create such an environment. In terms of infrastructure, it's possible to add new sensors, new communication technology in the ceiling, also behind the floor, as you can see on the pictures. And we also created a number of technical corridors in the house, so that every room in the house has such a technical corridor behind one of the walls, where you can also easily install extra sensors or maybe equipment just to monitor a test without being seen in the actual room. So that the end user, if you test with an end user in the room, this end user still has the feeling of being in a real normal room and not in a real lab environment if he sees all kinds of cables or sensors. Also in terms of hardware and home automation, we try to have something, an extensive system and also a flexible system. So you can see that the electrical cabinet is quite big. That's because we do a lot of monitoring, energy monitoring per wall socket. And we allow a lot of building systems to be controlled, like windows, like curtains, like blinds, a number of doors, the elevator, of course the lights, the wall sockets, also aspects of the heating and the ventilation system. So that allows you to do you can easily set up a lot of services or tests with controllable devices and systems. We even have foreseen multiple bus systems for every switch. So that's also easy to just replace a number of switches in, for example, one room or a few rooms by technology from another vendor. If you want to test another home automation system in the house, you can easily do it in parallel with, let's say, the basic system that's available. In terms of software and interoperability, we have created our own middleware platform, which we call Diamond, which in fact does this kind of translations, which I mentioned earlier, between different kinds of protocols. It's a plugin-based system where which allows you to easily set up prototype services that combine technology from different vendors, from different domains. You can see some examples of wireless communication protocols, connected devices, and also home automation systems, which are all supported. Just to give you a small example of what's possible with our software, I have a small video. I'm not sure if you could hear anything, but so what happens is that with an Alexa skill, we could control both several aspects of the home automation system, but also the Philips Hue light here at the back was change of color. So in fact, the added value of using our Diamond platform is that you can, with one command or with one service, in this case this Alexa skill, you can control multiple systems which use different protocols. And so with this platform, it's quite easy in the home lab to set up prototype services that combine different kinds of technology, just to test which kinds of combinations has added value for your end users, has added value for you as a company, and that's the main goal. The home lab is a special lab, meaning that we have some IoT technology, commercial technology available. As you have seen, this Alexa system. We also have some social robots like the Pepper robots, where we experiment with. But we don't buy every IoT gadget that's out there because we are not really a demonstration environment. We are really a lab environment. We focus especially on the integration of a lot of sensors in the home lab. So we try to capture a lot of data, like on energy monitoring, on air quality, as you can see here, also on the presence and locations of the users of the home. And often we will install several systems next to each other to be able to compare them with each other, or to compare more experimental systems with, let's say, already commercial available technology. We also try to reuse the data that comes out of these sensors for multiple purposes. So in this case, you see a screenshot of air quality measurements that we perform at the home lab, which is temperature, humidity and CO2 levels. And especially these CO2 levels is interesting to be used also for other use cases, because CO2 levels rise quite fast when there are multiple people inside the room. So they give a good indication of presence of people, of location of people, and based on that you can not only adapt your ventilation system, but you will do really, if you look at air quality measurements, but you could also use this presence information for entertainment services, maybe even care services or security services. Just to illustrate that these CO2 levels are really a good indication, I also have a short video of about, it shows you the time of 1 hour in the home lab when we had a visit of a group of, I think, about 10 people. And you can see that the people first went into the living room. You can clearly see that the levels of CO2 were rising then. And later on they went into 2 rooms alongside the hallway. So now they're in room 2. And next they went to room 1. And again back to the living room. So you can easily see where people are, and maybe you could invent like entertainment services where your radio is following you or something like that. This data also showed us that in the beginning of the home lab, our ventilation system was not working, because then the red color would stay in the living room. As now, when the people were in the rooms and along the hallway, you saw that the CO2 levels were dropping again in the living room. So now the ventilation system luckily does work and has really some added value. So all this data, of course, is then is captured in a scalable data platform, because that's one of the main assets we have in the home lab, to use that data for our research and to use that data as a result of tests for the companies that do the tests in the lab. And we also collaborate with other groups within IMEC to do actual user testing. It can be interesting to involve users in innovation in several stages of your innovation. You could already involve them very early in your innovation to do, for example, brainstorming or co-creation sessions. And the fact that you can do this in a realistic environment, as this home with real technology, might help to come up with better ideas than if you do it just in a plain meeting room. Of course, later on, when you have a first prototype of your product, you can also test with end users how they perceive your product, how they interact with your product, if it's easy to install, if it's easy to use, if the user interface is understandable, etc. People can also stay in the house for a few nights if that's interesting for a certain test. To conclude, I have a few more example projects, more in the energy domain, because we are at the European Utility Week. In general, the home lab is used for many domains, going from entertainment, comforts, care, security, but also energy, of course. One of the things we work on in our group is non-intrusive load monitoring. So that's the disaggregation of energy consumption profiles, where you just measure the energy consumption at one point, so the total household consumption, but at a very high frequency. And then using machine learning, you try to disaggregate the consumption in the different consumptions of the different appliances in your home. This is, of course, not an easy task to do it very accurately for many different devices. So that's why we are collaborating with a Flemish company to try to improve that. And you can see on the slide that for a data set from the literature, we were able to improve the state-of-the-art accuracy using some techniques from the deep learning domain. The home lab, of course, is then interesting to validate these kind of algorithms, because we also have very extensive energy monitoring via our home automation system. You can validate if the result of the algorithm is really correct with what you're measuring in the lab itself. Here you can then see the screenshots of the actual commercial service of the company we collaborate with. Of course, total household consumption, but that's not so special. But at the right, you can also see the specific events on appliances, lights, and other appliances that are switched on and off. And again, this data is, of course, interesting to provide advice on energy efficiency, but is also very interesting again for other services. It gives you a good indication again of presence of people, activities that are going on in your house, and that data could then be used for comfort services, maybe even care services where you monitor older people to see if they're following their daily routine, and if not, this might trigger maybe a soft alarm to relatives or caregivers to check if everything is still okay. A last example is about demand response, also a typical example of energy services which also become more and more important in home domains. For example, to increase the self-consumption of locally generated energy from solar panels. And again, the Home Lab can be interesting to test, for example, end-to-end connectivity between such a service and your devices that you want to control, or the interoperability if you want to control different devices from multiple vendors, or the interaction with end users to see how do they provide flexibility, what information do they need, maybe also what kind of rewards do they need so that they would provide flexibility over a long time. So that's everything I wanted to tell you. You can find some more links on this slide if you want to have more information or if you want to see some live measurements. And of course, you can always talk to me after the session if you want some more information. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Really appreciate that, Matthias. Are there any questions? Anybody got any questions about what Matthias just presented? No? Okay, that's brilliant. Again, thank you, Matthias. Really appreciate that. So we will take a short break and then we'll be back at 12:40 for a quick sort of Q&A session on sort of some of the work that Cytelim's been doing this morning. So we'll see you back in about 20 minutes. Thank you.